Hello, entrepreneurs. Joe DeCharis, CPA, coming to you live from downtown Flushing, New York, for another amazing episode of How to Win at Business. And if you're watching live, give me a hashtag live. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. And tonight, folks, I came up with this. Actually, my team is coming up with these topics, and I have to thank them. What's the title? Oh, tax filing mistakes to avoid. I just take this stuff for granted. And I said, oh, this is a topic. And then I started listing some of the things that people do that get themselves into trouble. And it's a never ending list. It's just going on and on and on, ways that people get themselves into trouble. And it's not even, I'm talking about even people that go to professionals, even my clients. I'm going to give you some tips. If you're my client, don't assume that everything that I've done is right. We're dealing with numbers and moving targets, and we're exchanging information. So, let's go through some of the main things that people do to that get themselves into trouble. So, the first step, whenever I do a return, I don't care if I've done it 100 times, I look at last year's return, including my own. When I do my return, I'm looking at, last year I made a couple of mistakes on my, they were minor mistakes, but I just wasn't paying attention. I'm the last person that gets filed, but mistakes can be made. So when you look at last year, you might even find a mistake that's in your favor, and then you could file an amended return, which is always nice. But so you start with last year, and this goes with anything. The next tip goes with, it doesn't matter if you got a bicycle that you have to put together. If you got your kid a bicycle, if you were stupid enough to buy your child something for Christmas that had to be built, okay, you should follow the instructions. And it's the same thing with your tax returns. So when I started, it was, in 1924, before computers and the internet, and we had to actually read the instructions, and we had to understand what the law was. So those instructions are still there. And if you're doing a tax return, all you got to do is go to irs.gov, and they got forms and publications on everything. So if you want to know, what your filing status is, don't just check off a box. You see, so when I started, everything was on pencil and paper, literally, and everything was reviewed if it was done properly. If you were in a firm where somebody did the return and then somebody else reviewed it, that's the right way to do it. Okay. Now it's become less of the instructions and more computer inputting. So now not only do you have the tax instructions, you got to know the instructions for your software. And let me tell you something, it's not an easy task. So whether you're doing it yourself or you're having a professional do it. So there's a lot of moving parts, and that's how errors are made. Answer all the questions. Okay, every form, there's a line. You have to see if it applies to you. There's a question now on the tax returns if you have done anything with virtual currency, Because guess what, folks? Right now there's it's going to be an issue. I'm sure they have it figured out on how they're going to account for cryptocurrency, but it's a question on a tax return. If you don't check it off, yes or no, you get a bad point. So you got to answer all of the questions. If you're getting an earned income credit, if you're claiming any kind of credit, make sure that you answer all of the questions. When you're done with the return, print it. Don't assume that the computer put everything in the right places. So you print it and you compare it to last year's return. Okay. If you don't want to mail it, the days of mailing returns are over. They don't like them. They don't like paper. And when I say they, I'm talking about the machine, the IRS. They like digital. So if you file digitally, don't assume that it was filed. I've run into problems with my tax software where it told me it was processed. It was processed at my software company's level, but there was a problem at the IRS level, and a couple of them got through, and we got penalties. I got the penalties abated because of reasonable cause, but the bottom line is that mistakes happen. Don't mail anything, not even a check. If you owe the IRS money, if you're going to mail something, then at least get a certified return receipt, so that later on you'll be able to prove that you made an attempt to file and pay. Okay, the IRS is broken now, folks. I just got an email that over 29 million tax refunds have not been processed because the system is on overload. They have to manually process these returns. They have to manually process returns, and it's not a good picture. It's not a pretty picture. So if I've had my banner going here. If you want to connect with me, I welcome you to chat with me. Go to Time with Joe. I'd love to talk to you about business. If you're starting a business, if you have a tax problem, if you have a tax question, anytime, just book the chat, and I would be happy to help you. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I will be back again tomorrow with another amazing episode of How to Win at Business. Thank you.